this, but I'm not really sure. The redirection there is, well, what do you think is the next step? You redirect them by asking, what is the next step that's going to help them solve their problem? Most of the time, it's for them to go do more fact-finding, gather more information so they can make an informed decision as to what they think is the best outcome and then come back to you, right? So after you've delegated a project, or maybe it's a regular routine task they're supposed to take care of, and then they come to you, or you see that they're off kilter, off track, you want to redirect them. How many of you know the sandwich method? Few? How many HR people are in the room? A few? Okay. Yeah. Disclosure, I am not an HR person, but real quick, just to share with everyone. So, sandwich method. You got your bread, cheese in the middle, or cheese and meat, whatever you want, and then bread on the outside, right? Whenever we're going to do a redirect, whenever you're going to, even if you need to actually reprimand them, you're always going to start with a positive. Hey, Beth, I got to tell you, you are such an important part of this team. You are phenomenal with keeping on these deadlines and keeping everyone organized. That was your positive, your bread on the outside, right? However, I've got to let you know it's been weighing on my mind. All of the typos and the grammar errors in all of your documentation, it's frustrating the heck out of me, and it's causing us a whole lot more unnecessary work. What can we do to help you get better at that? Because we want to see you thrive and grow in this environment. And then you've talked to them. Maybe it's they need to do a private training, an online training. Maybe they just need to slow down and do their own edit, right? You talk to them about what are we going to do about it. You come up with a quick plan, and you get their commitment to make that change. Okay, do I have your commitment? Then the next 2 weeks, you're really going to focus on being better about this. We need together to make this better. They say yes, then you end up with the bread on the end. Great, because we see you as a long-term part of this team. Always end with that positive, or they walk out of that discussion feeling very negative about the whole experience, right? So, we love to delegate things. We love to give projects to our team. But kind of like a rocket ship to the moon is off kilter like 98% of the time, right? It's constantly getting redirected, repositioned. That's sort of how it is with our team. You do a lot of redirect, but you gotta nip it in the bud. You can't wait until you get so frustrated you're ready to fire them. Because you know what? The zap method, zap, you're fired. How many of you have worked with employers or people like that? Okay, maybe don't raise your hand. No, in your past lives. There are a lot of individuals in this world that don't know how to interact, don't know how to train their team, build their team up. And they get so frustrated, they wait so long, and that's like, zap, you're fired. And then there's like constant turnover, and it sucks. Instead, we want to empower our team to get better, to thrive, to grow, to live the life they're meant to live. So a very important part of your own time management is learning how to effectively redirect, teaching everyone else on your team how to become their own managers, how to solve their own problems. Don't solve their problems for them, or they're just going to keep coming back to you, which it makes us feel special. Ooh, look, everybody has to come to me. Everybody has to come and get permission. And you're working like 60 hours a week, and they get to go home at 4 or 5 o'clock, right? It sucks. As a small business owner, I used to do that to the nth degree. fully admit it these days. So practice the redirect. So real quick, another little exercise. This one, I want you to write down a couple of phrases that you've heard me say, or things that you think of on your own, to start to give yourself the tools to redirect your team. Maybe it's, what's the next step? Maybe it's, what do you suggest we do about that? Or how do you suggest we solve that problem? So just spend a minute or so, write down a couple of phrases that you think you might use. All right. So the next part is leveraging your valuable time. Each and every one of us only have 168 hours in every week. 168 hours. It's important that you get clear on what are the tasks you have to do every single day. You gotta eat, you gotta sleep. Sorry, but you can't delegate someone to take your shower for you. Please don't try. Right? And then you're gonna find that there are the tasks you want to do. This is so each one of us grow and thrive as an individual. Because if you're not rested and stable and doing the things you love and growing yourself, you're not as effective to everyone else. You are such a key, important, valuable part to this entire picture. So whether it's the spirituality, maybe like exercise, time with your family, your kids, I'll go back to personal time, because we all need a little bit of that. Maybe it's that you want to read a book each month. You want to work on a language, work on a musical instrument. Find what makes you happy. Do some of those things you're passionate about. It is going to make you a better, stronger leader. And when you know that you're going to be giving up your personal time, if you don't insist your team help get things done, it changes the dynamic. Quit tolerating putting yourself last. If we as leaders, as managers, as the people that are supposed to be inspiring to the rest of our team, if we're not taking the initiative, how do we expect them to look up at us with respect, right? Very important for each one of us. You have 168 hours. Choose how you spend your time and spend it wisely. And then there's the work week. 40 hours, 50 hours, 60, 70, 80, you know. No, seriously, like 40 hours. People think, oh, I got to do all these things in 40 hours. Honestly, what people forget is there are 60 hours between 6 p.m. on Friday afternoon and 6 a.m. on Monday. 60 hours we let go out of our lives. Start choosing how you use your time. That will also help you choose to use your work week more effectively and have your team start respecting your time as well. Got a minute? Okay, how often does that turn into 1 minute? How many times is that, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, right? The gotta minutes, we gotta quit. Great, here's 60 seconds. I just started the timer. Start talking. It's tempting, right? So I'm going to show you a block calendar that I used in my law firm, because I'm a big believer in visuals can sometimes give you some ideas of how to structure yourself. How many people use time blocking in their work week for their own calendars? Good, a good portion of you. Excellent. So this was client matters for legal work. I always return phone calls right after lunch. I had my admin time every Thursday and every Tuesday. I had my bookkeeping. You always want to have good 2 hours of financial controls every single week. Some weeks you don't need 2 hours. Great. But if you need to be a good money manager, you need to take time to read those reports. Now, it's nice to have it all color-coded and all this stuff, but then life gets in the way, right? Never works this way every single week. And so you have to learn to move things. So if you've got all-day meetings on Wednesday, okay, we need to move some things around. Or all-day meetings on Thursday, great, our bookkeeping now needs to go to Wednesday or Friday. Start thinking about your week in terms of blocks of time. Don't ever delete stuff off. You just move it. You shift it to another time slot. So here's what happens when you do that. If you know that once a week, or maybe your position you need it 2 or 3 times a week, is when you're going to deal with financial control issues. Looking at invoices, approving things, whatever. You map it in, figure out your best time frame for doing those things. And what happens is when somebody comes in on Tuesday afternoon and asks for something about these, an invoice or a something, your brain is allowed to say, great, I'll take care of that tomorrow morning. Because we have a place for that project to live. And rather than having all these open loops in your brain, worried about all these tasks to do, we've now been able to say, nope, that goes right in there, I'll deal with that tomorrow or this afternoon. So wherever you can, you've got a bunch of meetings with your team, you've got some prep time, you've got some social time where you need to go make some rounds and talk to people, right? You give yourself permission so that mentally you're not beating yourself up all the time for all the stuff you need to get done. Now, the other important part to this is you get your team to start using it too. So like my admin time, my weekly meetings with my associates. Teach your team to come to you only during certain times. Now, this means defining the word emergency. If it is an emergency, they get to come to you. Versus, is it just urgent or important? And if it's just important, they're not allowed to come interrupt you in the middle of whatever you're doing. They need to hold that question until your open door time or whenever you're set to meet with them. And all of a sudden, you can get more done in less time. Because every time you get interrupted, right, there's a couple more minutes where, and then you have to get back into your project. We all have been there, yes? Yes. So you don't have to have every part of your week blocked out like this. But even if you were just to take a first step and say, team, I'm going to have closed door time so I can get X done. Hold your questions as soon as I come out. In my firm, this was an early version. We actually went back to doing from like 11:30 to noon. We did fires. We did time when we did litigation. There was always something that erupted. And rather than always being behind and having to deal with it on the fly, we started realizing, this pretty much happens every day. Why don't we just be proactive and schedule some time so that we can address those issues? So again, you can use your calendar to start being more proactive rather than reactive in your office. Does that make sense? All right? So I'm going to encourage you all to, in the next week or two, pay attention to where your 168 hours is going. Start thinking about how you want to choose to spend your time. The word choose is a very empowering word. We all have a choice. There was a couple of great quotes that were shown earlier. I was back there, I pulled out my laptop, started writing down all these quotes. They were great. Hopefully, are you going to send those out to everybody? They all need those quotes. They're great. So this is just a visual idea, just to give you guys kind of some thoughts, but I want you to all to tackle it in your own way, because your 168 hours is your most precious commodity. All right. Communication. Who shall do what by when? This goes with policies and procedures and guidelines, right? Every single communication. Start getting your team to always finish every conversation with who shall do what by when. Whether it's with your assistant, a manager, even if it's out, you're talking to a resident, talking to a vendor, anywhere and everything, whether it's an email, phone calls, in-person communications. When you end a conversation with who shall do what by when, you create that closure to the conversation with clarity as to what's the next step. And if it's something that goes in a file or is pertinent to some kind of a vendor or something like that, you get your team to always be documenting that. That way, if they happen to be out sick for tomorrow or the next day, somebody else can flip open that file or look in the digital folder, and without even having to wonder, it always is going to say who shall do what by when. Oh, vendor's going to call me by Friday at 3 p.m. You're empowering the team to have peace of mind if they have to step away from the office. It's also going to save a ton of lost time and productivity when you're scurrying through the office trying to figure out, hey, who knows when the vendor's supposed to show up? Or when they're getting back to us, right? So it's little techniques like this. And this is really a culture in your firm, in your business, in your office, in your group, in your department. This is what gives everyone the peace of mind. If they've got to step away, their child just fell off the jungle gym, or the monkey bars, and they've got to run to the hospital, right? It's that beautiful moment when the person says everything's in the file. They don't even have to think. They don't even have to worry. They can mentally check out and be present in their child's life and know that the office is taken care of. Everyone knows what to do. So when you go to your team with policies and procedures and systems, which are so incredibly, incredibly important to give that clarity to everyone of who's doing what by when, right? That is such an important part of building in this culture. But most individuals just see it as, here, I want you to do this. And they're like, it's another procedure. It's another task I have to do. And so what I'd like to encourage you all is start putting this into play and helping your team understand when they follow the protocols, when they follow the procedures, when everything is consistently done the same way, when every communication ends with who shall do what by when and gets documented, we have that clarity. We have the freedom to be able to live life versus hours and hours of time that gets spent searching for information, trying to track down projects. Now, another component to this, though, is really giving clarity as to what each person on the team's duties are and how they report back to us. Because life is exhausting enough without having to go to like, Mary, do you have this done? Joe, is this finished yet? Like, next thing you know, you're going from office to office and you're working for them. Instead, we want to empower them to report up so that we have the information we need without having to waste mental energy going and searching for it. How many people, you guys have been here for 2 days, right? Well, 1.5. You went wine tasting yesterday. How was that, by the way? Some of them. Ah, okay. Well, I hope there was Advil in all these little bags this morning. No, Dundee Hills is beautiful. I'm fortunate to live out there now, so I enjoy it tremendously. And I grew up in the wine industry, so I'm rather spoiled with good wine, but it is a lot of fun. Anyways, sorry, I sidetracked. In the last day and a half, you've been here. How many of you have had at least a dozen thoughts running through your brain, all those open loops of projects and tasks, wondering, gee, I wonder if this person got that done? How many more than 10? Yeah? How many more than 20? Yes? Be brutally honest. We all sit there thinking these things. This is where, when you get your team into a rhythm, it is an amazing part where they feel good because they know what's expected of them. So let me give you a quick example. I used to do this with one of the first ones that I got up to speed in my office was, so I actually attended a policies plus procedures equals systems and sanity workshop. It was a 3-day workshop in North Carolina. And interestingly, I went back and systematized my whole law firm. And it's what allowed me to start taking 2- and 3-week-long vacations. That and the fact that Cassie used to work for me as my administrator. But so everybody knew what was expected of them. And I actually now teach that policies plus procedures equals systems and sanity workshop. I just did 4 days of it in Key Biscayne, Florida a couple weeks ago. Before the hurricane. Before I was out of there before then. Anyways, the policies and procedures each create the building blocks, giving the guidelines to the team of what it is that we're trying to accomplish. And then the procedures are like the recipe, the step-by-step how to get it done. But we always have to have that end part. What are they then supposed to do with it? It's not enough to just like toss it into your inbox. Go the extra step of having them get it organized so it's always going to be there in a good organized fashion. So one of the things I learned with my bookkeeper, I sat down with her, I said, Kim, I want you to give me my 6 key monthly reports, and I want these 4 weekly cash flow reports. And I want to work with you. You've got 2 young twins. I know that you're busy. How can we make this work? And she said, well, on Wednesdays, my daughters are at Girl Scouts, and they're at their friend's house. So I know I'm going to have a 6-hour block on Wednesdays. I can update all the financials and get all your reports in. And I said, all right, let's make an agreement. By 10 p.m. on Wednesday night, every week, without fail, you're going to get those reports in for me. Yes? She said yes. For the next 3 years, there wasn't a Wednesday night that ever went missed. I never had to waste a minute of mental energy wondering when I was going to get those reports. And so on Thursday morning, when I came in, and that was my time slot for doing my weekly financial controls and bookkeeping, all my reports were there. It was such peace of mind to know that the system just worked. And even when I was on vacation, it just kept working. And even when she had to step away because her father got ill, and because we had all those procedures documented, she was able to step away. And she lost her other parent just recently. And she actually sent me a really nice card that said, for the second time in my life, I'm thanking you. Because she's still a bookkeeper for my law firm where, I'm of counsel, but I'm not practicing daily anymore. Anyway, so she had reached out to me the first time and said, thank you so much for pushing me to get all these policies and procedures in place, because when I needed to step away and be there with my family, I knew that the temp would have everything handled perfectly and that they would be able to do the amazing job, and I wouldn't come back to like this cluster of problems, right? She was able to just step away and have that freedom to focus on her family. And then 3 years later, her other parent became very ill, and she had to do the same thing. And I think this last time she was out a month and a half. For a small business, your bookkeeper leaves for a month and a half. Most of the time, you're having like freak out moments, right? And here it was like completely smooth, not a problem. But she wouldn't have done all of that but for the fact we had to have that conversation with her of how this was going to benefit her life. And that I wanted her to go take vacations. I wanted her to go recharge her battery. And so that's why we were putting these policies and procedures in place. We weren't doing it so that I could get her to document it all and zap, you're fired, which is what most employees will think when you ask them to, like, for the first time, write down what they do. They get very insecure that they're about to get fired. And so you have to have that conversation with them, and it's part of building this culture. We do this so in those unexpected moments in our lives, we can step away and not be worried about it. And that the team doesn't lose its rhythm and productivity because you're out for a few days, right? So a lot of this, I'm talking about this because it relates to time management in your office, in all of the parts that you touch. When you create good systems with the team running and knowing what they're doing, it's an amazing experience. All right, final thing. Clarity with tasks. Now, I don't pretend to know everything about your company, and I know that there are many different individuals here with different positions and different jobs. But I'm a pretty big fan of job descriptions and getting clarity with what every single employee on the team needs to do. And truth be told, it really comes down to this. What are the tasks each person has to do daily? What are the tasks they have to do weekly, monthly, and quarterly? Empower your team to have that clarity and provide an opportunity so that they can get those things done. They know the priority levels and they report up or they report across, and that they drop, kind of like the bookkeeper, drop in the reports in my Dropbox account, right? Now, granted, that was with some secure measures and such. I don't know what, if you, do you guys use a wiki? You guys use internet? Okay. You really need to focus on this. This would be something that if you all want more time of your own time drawn back to you so you can work on those important projects of your own, empower your team to get these things done. Get them to have that clarity and give you the information you need on a little platter so that you can then take the information you need and report it up or report it across or use it to make your analyses or whatever you're doing, right? This is difficult to do because we do so many things, right? It doesn't happen overnight. I encourage you all to just get started. Choose to get started. Use empowering language.